What is up, Timmy Academy? We are back with an educational video for today. I know it's been a while. Been super busy working out a bunch of deals and whatnot. Just got back from Atlanta on, what's today? Today's Wednesday. I got back Monday evening. Did a collection buy down there. Just a small $3,000 collection, 3,100. Cool guy, mostly modern stuff. I think he stopped really buying cards around 2-3 years ago. There were a couple reserve list goodies in there. I didn't film a collection video for this because it's mostly modern, and like majority of the stuff was in the $2 to $10 range. So there wasn't a whole lot of exciting stuff. There was a lot of, good $20 plus staples, but maybe 20 of them or so. I did the sales post for it, kind of mashed it up with my I'm selling some reserve list cards right now that I got from a buy last week or the week before, that I really didn't have the liquidity to pick up, but I did it anyway, just because it was a good deal. And then all the spikes hit and it turned out to be a good pickup. So kind of flushing out the rest of that. These were the reserve list fun things from this collection in Atlanta. Let's see if I can get these to focus. So we got a nice Sliver Queen. This is near mint too, so that'll go in my second full set of Stronghold. City of Traders, couple of Lurin, which just spiked nicely, and a Dream Hall. So with all the reserve list spikes that are going on, I think by the time we had negotiated 75% on the TCG list, and then there was about 30,000 bulk cards for this Atlanta collection. By the time I got back, I checked the collection tracker again, and the price that I paid was about 70% of the current prices. So these had gone up a little bit since we had started dealing. So that's nice. I didn't really expect it. It was just one of those things. And it didn't go up a ton. It was just enough to kind of hit my 70% threshold. So, yeah, so that was that. Today, though, we're going to talk about references. This is mostly in reference to Facebook buying and selling. A lot of the larger dealers and large deals that happen over Facebook, and they happen without buyer and seller protection. They happen as essentially cash deals, wire transfers, that kind of stuff, and it all hinges on a very tight-knit references community. There's an entire Facebook group dedicated to Magic the Gathering references. It's called MTG References Page or something like that. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find what it's actually called. That would be helpful. Professional YouTuber here. Yeah, it's called MTG References Page. And I think it's got 15,000 people in it. Pretty much grows daily. There's other places to post your references page. Sick Deals, some other of the other large groups. And what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a references page is essentially you create a thread, and people that you've done transactions with, whether it's people you've bought from or people you've sold to or traded with, leave you a +1. Hey, this person's a good, my cards came in, I didn't get screwed over, blah, blah, blah. So that's how a lot of the community works. And a lot of people who are buyers and sellers in the community don't really know that it exists. At least a lot of people I've run across. I've had lots of situations where someone pays me and we're negotiating the deal, and I say, do you have buyer references? And they say, why do I need buyer references? You're the one with the product who's selling. I'm at risk. Well, if there's a lot of buyer scams out there. I don't want to say there's not a lot of buyer scams out there, but buyer scams do exist. I would say they're probably more prevalent than than a lot of people think, and maybe more prevalent than seller scams. I don't. There's no data on any of this, but generally seller scams get called out quickly, and someone is alerted to be a scammer, and then their game is over essentially. With buyer scams, it just kind of, a lot of times it goes on the wayside. Someone gets burned and it doesn't get talked about all that much. It does get talked about, but it usually doesn't get as much hype as like a seller scam does. So a buyer scam would be, say somebody pays you $500 PayPal goods and services for some product. You ship the product, you give it tracking, it gets there, they claim it's counterfeit or it never arrived, they file a claim. PayPal almost always sides with the buyer. So even if you sent real cards, they could claim it's fake, they send you back a bunch of trash or nothing, or fake cards, and you get burned for your product. So it's important, if you're doing higher end sales, to collect references as well. So let's dive into what references are, how to use them, how to set up your page. So first of all, you're probably going to want to use MTG references page. It's a group on Facebook, and that's where it's the hub for everyone's references page. I currently have one running on there. You can just search someone's name, and if they have a ref thread, it'll pop up, or most people have a link to their own ref thread. And that's kind of where you start. You go on there, you start a thread. A lot of people ask, how do you get references? Well, you start a thread, and then you tag people that you've done transactions with. And then as you go through and do more transactions, you ask people, hey, I always ask when I do sales with a new person, I say, let me know when it lands. Well, about 50% of people let you know when it lands. Well, that gives me a reminder. When they say, hey, the cards got here, I say, hey, that's awesome. How do they look? Everything good? Do you mind dropping me a ref? And then I send them the link. And, I have a steady current list of references all the time because I do that. So that's how I like to do it. And it seems to be a good system. It works. It keeps my references up to date. When you're looking at using references to ensure that somebody's not a scammer, that somebody's a legitimate buyer or seller, it's not just about the quantity of references. It's about the quality of references. I will accept one reference from somebody who I know to be a very trustworthy person. So like if there's certain big names in the game, or people who are really good buyers of mine, or people that I just trust in the community, and if you have a +1 from them, well then you don't need any more +1s. So it's not just about quantity. And also beware of stuff like the last reference was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That's not always a sign of, sometimes it's just a sign of somebody hasn't been doing any business in the Magic community for the last couple of years. But it could be a potential sign of a scam. And then there's also people who, if you don't recognize any of the names, that could get a little hairy. If there's only like 10, 15 people, it's conceivable that someone just invited a bunch of their friends to the references page, they all dropped a +1, and it may look legit, but it may not be. So the moral of that story is do a little bit of digging. Don't just accept references as, oh, this person has a reference page, so they're reliable. The other thing to watch out for is someone sending you screenshots of references. This is notorious for being a scam. Someone will go into Adobe Photoshop, they'll chop off the top name, they'll use a real reference page, they'll chop off the top name and replace their name with it, or whatever it may be. Do not accept screenshots as reliable references. Make sure it's searchable, make sure it's actually in a group somewhere, And if you need to, touch base with a couple other references and just say, hey, if you feel a little weird about it, just message a couple of people and say, hey, have you done transactions with this person? Did it all go cool? Yeah, they're fine. So it's not just about the fact that a reference page exists. It's more about diving deep into the references and making sure that you feel comfortable that everything is legitimate. Obviously, it's not a foolproof way to stay safe in the community as far as buying and selling is concerned, but it's a good way to navigate. And once you start using the system, you get to see that the world of buyers and sellers on Facebook is it's smaller than you might think. You wind up running into the same people all the time. You wind up seeing the same faces and names pop up all over the place, and you kind of get the idea of who is legitimate and who is not. And then when you see a name that you've never seen before, you can kind of go, okay, well, this, is this person sketchy? So that's kind of how to build your reference page and how to do a self-audit, a investigation on references. Now, upkeep of reference page is really just what I had said, where you want to keep it so that there's people dropping references for you on occasion, at some sort of frequency, or else your reference page gets stale. So if you're a seller, every time you make a sale, just ask someone, to drop a ref. If you're a buyer, every time you buy something, once it gets to you and everything's cool, and just ask for a reference. And that's really that's the start and finish of upkeep. You want to make sure to keep up with the freshness, the newness of the references that are on your ref page. And usually what I do is I have a link for my references page on my phone in like a notes app, and I have it attached to my inventory spreadsheet at the top, so people can see it as they're looking at my inventory spreadsheet to buy cards. And then if I need to send it, I have a quick access on my computer and on my phone if I need to copy paste. Let's see. I think that might be it. I mean, this is really just an intro into references. If you don't know they exist, this is kind of how they work. It works in very much the same way as reviews and 5 stars on eBay and TCG Player. The more you see and the more +1s, it's going to give you a good feeling. But remember, it's not always about quantity. It is about quality of refs as well. Like I said, if you've got one ref from, some of the big names in the community, then you don't need any more refs. I think that's it. Just a short video today. If you have any questions about references or want to know more about it, just shoot me an email, drop me a comment below. It's really quite simple. And it's kind of how the whole community on Facebook stays safe. And it's also how we avoid some fees associated with eBay and, PayPal and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Peace out, Timmy Academy.